Hello everyone, it's Kevin, your entrepreneur, and I'm going to do a different kind of video today. I'm going to actually address the trolls. I know you shouldn't do this. I know if someone starts putting a bunch of negative comments on the thing that are counterproductive, you should ignore them. You really should not. And I'm not even going to name names on certain trolls. It's raining as you can hear, so sorry about that. But you know what? I've had a certain comment keep coming up in various videos, whether they've been positive videos or negative videos. And let's face it, there's been more negative recently. I hate to say it, but there have been. And the comment always ranges on a variation of stop talking, dude. They don't care. And this is usually in reference to how, whether they be drivers or dashers or fleet members or couriers, that basically all these companies, Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, Postmates, Caviar, Favor, they know that there are problems in the app. They know that they cause problems for the drivers, but they don't care. Now, here's the thing. Just because they don't care doesn't mean you shouldn't complain, because a lot of positive change has come from people making complaints about things that companies have not cared about. But I think it's time we need to take this a step further. Now I need to actually address the companies, because here's the thing. I am not going to make the claim that they do not care about the drivers. I am not going to make that claim. I cannot prove it. I'm relatively certain Uber doesn't care. But since most of these companies are still in startup, still losing money, and still trying to get a foothold in the marketplace to profitability and relevance, I bet to a certain extent they do care. Now, here's something that is also probably true. They probably care more about the customers than the drivers. They will probably bend over backwards for the customers. And you know what? That sounds good in theory, but in practice, if you don't care about your drivers, you will not succeed. Because here's the thing, what is the benchmark for the most successful businesses in the world of all time in history? Good customer service. Where do you get good customer service? Most of the time, happy employees. Now, we're not employees, we're independent contractors, but for lack of a better term, we're going to say employees now, because in a sense, we are the worker bees. And in a sense, we're more important than employees because we're independent contractors. So here's the thing. If the employees aren't happy, the customer service fails. And if the customer service fails, the customers are not happy. And if the customers are not happy, they stop using your service. And if they stop using your service, you are out of a job, and because there is no more business to sell merchandise or food or rides to. You see where I'm going with this? I did a video several hours ago, and it was a rant, and I really wish I hadn't just touched on it, because I think it should have had its own video, but I'm going to readdress it here, and I'm going to say what the problem is. And those of you who can watch that video, it's the rainy day DoorDash blues, where basically I couldn't get a parking spot, and I contacted the customer service and said, you need to cancel this. I cannot find a place to park, and I cannot get the food. And after a long process, they finally reassigned it, which I told them not to do that, because the next person was going to have the exact same problem, and they were going to contact them and tell them to cancel it too. But they said the customer is expecting the food. Now, here's the thing. In theory, this sounds like, you see, we're putting the customer's needs above your needs. We cater to the customer, and we are going to do what we can to make them happy. Here's the thing. In theory, this sounds like you're taking care of the customer, but really, you're not only hurting the customer, you're hurting yourself. Because if, let's say, the next person passes to, and the third person, finally you get someone who's willing to walk the 4 blocks in the pouring rain through several traffic lights to pick up the food, they will be delivering soggy, cold food. Therefore, the customer has not been taken care of. They have been shafted. They have waited multiple hours for terrible food and terrible service. And not only will they rate accordingly, they will stop using DoorDash. Now, that's an example. Now, some people would say, well, what would I do? Well, here's the thing. Because the weather was inclement, and in fact, because there was flooding, so it was actually worthwhile to stop doing it early because there were some restaurants I couldn't even get to. Then what you need to do is send an email and say, hey, we are very sorry, but due to the inclement weather and unforeseen circumstances, this order must be canceled. We have refunded your money and we are giving you this 10% off your next delivery as a way of apologizing. And this accomplishes a couple things. One, you don't deliver shoddy food with shoddy service, and secondly, the customer looks at you and says, hey, they took care of me. They would rather be honest with me and say, hey, there were problems that couldn't be helped, and so that's why we didn't deliver the food, but here's something to help for the next time. And that's one example. Lyft recently cut their rates, and you know what's going to happen? A lot of people are going to stop driving for Lyft, even with the tips. And what happens when the good drivers stop driving for Lyft? Guess what? You get the people who are so desperate for money that they will drive even if they're losing money. And those people don't leave good impressions on Lyft. And so people who take Lyft rides, they leave, again, they rate accordingly and they don't use Lyft. Now, strangely enough, at the moment, Uber seems a little immune to this because there are tons of terrible drivers on Uber because Uber's pricing model caters and attracts the people who are that desperate for cash. But I keep looking at all these things. It's like, guys, this has to stop. This has to stop. We are in service industries. We can't be doing shoddy service. And the thing is, this is where the independent contractor aspect is way more important than the employee status because as independent contractors, if we're not happy with how we're being treated or the kind of money we're making, guess what? We don't come. And not only do you get terrible people to work who, don't mind losing money for whatever reason, but guess what? They give shoddy service and people notice. So when I talk about how DoorDash needs minimum orders, I'm not saying that just because I'm whining. I'm saying it because DoorDash, it would be a legitimately good reason. It would be a good thing for you to implement this because it leads to happier dashers, which leads to happier customers, which leads to more money for you. Lyft, when I tell you not to cut the rates, I do this because when you cut the rates, good drivers stop driving, and thus there are less people to be out there to pick other customers up, and thus more people use Uber because there aren't people on Lyft to pick them up. Thus, you lose money. And Uber, when you don't have a tip option, guess what? People drive for the competition, or if the competition is dropping their prices too much, people just don't drive at all. They pick another line of work to do, and you lose drivers. Thus, you lose people to pick other people up. Thus, surges come up. Thus, people have to pay more. Thus, people aren't happy. Thus, they stop using Uber. Companies, DoorDash, Uber, Lyft, Postmates, Caviar. Actually, Caviar has not really ticked me off recently. So far, Caviar, you're good. But all you guys, there are reoccurring problems that their drivers have. There are reoccurring problems that your employees have. And they are bringing them up, and they are bringing them up on a frequent basis. And when you ignore them, you are, in a sense, ignoring the need to improve good customer service. And if you don't have good customer service, your companies fail and you go out of business. So I know it's strange. I know the whole idea is like, let's think of the customer first. But if you think of the drivers and you think of their needs and you address their needs, provided those needs are reasonable, and I will give an example of unreasonable demands in another video that will probably go up tomorrow or the day after, just to show that I'm thinking of both sides of the story. But if you're thinking of the drivers, you are in a sense thinking of the customers. And when you think of the customers, you win. But you need to think of the customers in terms of how your drivers feel. Because here's the thing. If we're independent contractors, and guess what? In a sense, we're your customers too. We are being sold a platform to make money on. And if becomes a struggle to make money, then as customers, we will take our business somewhere else. And the problem is if we take our business somewhere else, that will impact the other customers you are also trying to cater to. Well, that was a mouthful. Well, come on, trolls. Hate below, comment, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.